Guys, so a lot of you guys have been asking my thoughts and opinions of the emergency live stream that the devs have had for Chaos Zero Nightmare. Now, as you can see, I'm outside. I just felt like this would be the perfect time to get some fresh air because this is definitely a topic that I think has kind of blown up and gotten a little out of hand. There are a lot of different things that are part of this, though, that I definitely think are valid and make sense. But then there's a whole bunch of other things that are just kind of out of the way, in my opinion. And this definitely does show the differences between each region, just in terms of like our wants and needs. But I also have like this understanding that certain things are still going to be portrayed or even looked at a certain way from the development team, because if we're just being honest, we know that certain markets make more money than others, right? So there's so much that we have to talk about here because it is really loaded. Now, this is, again, with the like kind of TDLR of what the live stream consisted of. They were basically apologizing for a lot of the service and like just kind of connectivity and purchase issues that they were having in the game because people were making purchases and stuff was like disappearing and accounts were disappearing. And I mean, granted, they made very, very quick work of that. And they got back everybody their stuff pretty quick. But they still were apologetic for that because that was something that, you know, obviously still did affect players while they were playing the game. Now, the other thing that I feel like is really more so the thing that's getting super, super blown up over in Korea and is really, I would say, the talk of that entire market is the storyline. Okay. Now, the storyline, and we have seen this play out in other games. I've witnessed this and experienced it in games like Weather and Waves, which I'm going to talk about that in a second. But one of the things that's happening right now is I can get behind the idea of what the game was marketed to be. The game, I guess, was originally supposed to be a game where you got on, you kind of are the MC, and it's kind of like your typical any other gacha. You're the MC, you get glazed, you get all the waifus, everybody wants you, and then you end up somehow being a god later down the line in the story. We know how this goes. But I guess the thing that has upset the KR market is that basically them getting on the game, they realize that they aren't really the focal point in the story. There's actually a lot more focus on Owen. Right. Now, I will say, and I can probably speak for a lot of you guys that's in my market and in my region, we didn't really care. I would just be honest. Like, I think it was actually, in my opinion, a breath of fresh air that we weren't having MC Glaze Fest happening all day. And don't get me wrong, I think that that is a really huge selling point for a lot of those markets for CN, KR, because they're trying to sell waifus, right? And so you have to make the person that's playing that game feel like they're super important. But to what extent, right? Like, that's always the question that you have to ask at the end of the day is like, how far are we going to take this and how far are we going to let the players take this, right? So that was definitely something that basically a lot of the players didn't feel like, they didn't like the idea that the MC currently is just more of like you're looking in or you're just kind of a sideline character. You're not really the focal point. So there was a lot that kind of went into that as far as the writers. There was an original writer. I think he worked for a bit for like 6 months or something like that. And then ended up like leaving or got fired. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section on that part. But they ultimately ended up hiring another writer that basically was filling in and rewriting a lot of components because they didn't have the original writer that they had to begin with. Now, I will say personally, I thought everything so far was pretty all right. But again, it's because I'm not looking at it from that, I guess, like kind of NTR perspective, as far as like, ooh, Owen's getting all the attention. Like, but that, again, that's just me as a westernized gamer, that again, comes from a completely different generation where I'm not really necessarily playing a lot of these games just to chase waifus. Hey, waifus are great. Don't get me wrong, but that's not the only reason why I'm playing these games. And so that, of course, is something that they announced they're going to be completely reworking. They're going to be redoing basically all of the story, to basically fit more of the narrative of what that community wants. And I know before a lot of people like go crazy typing. I know people are already cracking their knuckles to type on the keyboard. The reason why this is happening, all right, because I already know there's going to be people that like just, hey, this makes no sense. Why are they doing this? And it's because of money, okay? At the end of the day, when you are seeing developers apologize or they're making certain adjustments to their games, it's because like the reality is that certain markets just pay more, right? CN, KR, JP, global can have a pretty massive market, but we're not usually the bigger money spending market, right? And so that's something that like I feel like does play a heavy role in as to why. And also too, we have to remember that Smilegate is also based in Korea, right? So they are a Korean company. So it kind of makes sense that they are leaning more into trying to make certain changes really happen for a market that I would consider to be one of their main markets, right? And this is, of course, to ensure also, because I don't think they've released CN yet, that when CN comes, they have a smooth release for that. And then also for JP, right? So there's so much that kind of goes into this. And this is why I said it's just kind of like, it's just a lot, right? But I think also to tie this all up, they're trying to make sure that the story and the MC power and just a lot of different things is just more coherent. And it's really just so that I guess they really want to showcase the MC's full potential at this point. So that's kind of like the TDLR on the whole thing as far as like what's happening with that. Now, because of that, everybody has been saying on like the Reddit threads, even on my videos, like, RIP Owen, because they are actually going to be giving us a compensation. I think we're going to be getting, I think it was around like 40 to 50 pulls, because this obviously means that there's going to be a lot of development shift into rewriting the story. I don't know if that's going to take priority over a lot of the other fixes that we need in the game, but considering that this does seem to be a move that they're making to not only keep players, but ultimately later down the line, which is a bigger picture, is to help with monetization. I think that that's one of the things that we're seeing happen right now. So that's like a thing that I think that like I said, my take on this is that I just feel like, we finally have a game in the gacha space that's different, right? I'm really focused more on that, like a game that actually has good core mechanics. And yes, things need to be reworked, obviously, like translations and stuff like that. They did also talk about the affinity system. So they will basically reduce the grind. So this is one of those good things. They're going to be reducing the grind. And so that's one of the things that I think, like, again, is being mixed in with a kind of a little bit of like nonsensical, like just nonsensical stuff. And I'm just like, dude, okay, like, again, there's a lot of great things that I feel like this development team is trying to do. They've learned from a lot of mistakes, because you guys have to remember, this isn't their first game. Smilegate has had Epic 7, and for those that play Epic 7, including myself, you guys know how many different things have came out of Epic 7, drama, all of that stuff. And it's one of those things where I will even say that I don't really feel like this is Western drama. This is really purely coming out of KR. But because a lot of these things are directly correlated to fundamental potential changes and even story changes that we may be seeing in the game, I just felt like it was really important for me to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on this. Now, the other thing too that's coming along with a lot of this is, like I said, is the 10 summons. And this is going to be basically starting in early to mid-November. So I'm like kind of interested on how that's going to affect the, how that's going to affect the game. Now, I think they're just going to be the standard pools. I don't think there's going to be anything like that, but you guys know how it gets when you get something and then there's like this expectation, like, hey, can we get that from now on, So I'm just kind of interested to see how that's going to go. But ultimately, I think that like one of the things that for me has been a big thing is that, like I said, I've seen this happen before. And so we can go into games like Wuthering Waves, for example, where I've seen the development team actually go the extra mile, get feedback. The community, say CN, said, hey, we didn't like the fact that we felt that we weren't the major focal point. They rewrote everything. And then the CN audience still didn't like the changes that was made. And so you kind of have to beg to ask the question, is this going to even be worth it to begin with? So you don't even know know to begin with if this is even going to be something that's going to help. And so I just kind of implore that for those of us that are playing the game, enjoying it, if we feel like this is nonsense in some of regard of like some of the things that's being mentioned, support the game. Buy the battle pass, get summons, like do something to support this game, because I really honestly feel like that's one of the things, like we really do push and advocate and really want a ton of different free things for that experience. But when a game is actually delivering on giving a good experience, fixing issues as fast as they possibly can, we have to do a lot better with supporting those games than supporting and playing the games that really don't really care, right? Or they just continue to milk us, or, you know, like it's so many different things that's happening that I see, like, it doesn't make sense that I see a lot of my friends or even those of you guys in the community that complain, and we all know that there's issues, real big issues with some of the monetization structures and these gotchas that have been taking money from players for years at this point. But people continue to support those games, but the games that are actually coming and returning back to what I feel like is needed in the gaming space, which is games that are replayable, like, I don't even think like a lot of people really understand that part. Like, I think story has always been a really important aspect to a lot of games that I've played growing up, which is why I'm not against them necessarily changing it. I think the reason as to why is a little, you know, but I will say that being core mechanics being good, being replayable, we have not had something like this in quite a while in the gacha space. And that's why, like I said, I've been able to get onto Chaos Zero Nightmare every single day and just simply enjoy myself. So I don't know, guys, like, I just will say that, like, we just need to come together as a community and as of enjoyers of this game. This game just came out, and this is already something that's like kind of starting to take attention away from the good core things that the game is doing. I'm not saying by no means that Chaos Zero Nightmare is perfect. I feel like there's a ton of work that they have to do. And the thing is, though, is that they are actively doing it. And that's one of the things that I think is the biggest thing, is that if you are having issues, you are being receptive to your players, and you're really taking that feedback serious. Now, again, I think it is also really important, though, that you do still have to identify what you're going to take in as feedback and what you're going to deliver on. Because I feel like there are a lot of things that are going to also come up in the future, and you can't decide that you're going to just redo or, you know, remake story every single time that community doesn't like it. But again, I'm not the big money, big bucks market. I'm not in that market. So who am I, right? Who am I? But I'm interested to know how you guys feel about like all of this stuff, because like I said, for me, I just wanted to kind of talk about this because this could mean that a lot of different things fundamentally in the game are going to be changing. I want you guys to also understand too that I'm playing this game. I'm having fun. And that's the biggest thing, is that we're having fun. I think the general consensus, and I don't think that it could really be said this game is bad, you know, because the MC isn't the focal point. If I'm going to just be honest, I think that that's a breath of fresh air. It's not a MC glaze fest. It's really nice for once. And one of the things that I think I enjoyed so much about a lot of the games coming up is that it wasn't just that, right? Like, there was a lot of focal point on other characters, the emphasis on other characters, and that's what made those games great. It was made them fun, and like I said, just made them more replayable. So I don't know, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Everybody, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next CZN video.